As kids, we all had toys that we loved and enjoyed. When we got older, either you or your mom most likely got rid of these, believing that they would no longer be needed. Maybe they were given away, or maybe they were sold. But because of those fond memories, people often look back wishing they still had these toys. This, of course, drives the value up, as some people are willing to pay whatever they can to recapture some of those childhood memories. If you happen to have some of these old items and you're willing to sell them, then it's possible for you to make some serious money. It really does depend on what you have, as well as the condition that they are in. The Nintendo Entertainment System was a game system that solidified the gaming industry in the 1980s. In 1983, the console retailed for $199.99, which is about $514 in today's money. Every kid wanted one of these, and so did some adults. An original NES can sell for around $1,100 on eBay, but if you have a factory-sealed one, then you can get some serious money. On February 15, 2020, one sold on eBay for $36,655 after a bidding war with 60 bids. A Super Mario Bros. Game can easily bring $200, but if it is factory sealed, then they can go anywhere between $6,000 and $17,000. The Legend of Zelda is another iconic NES game, and in the latter part of 1987 there was a limited production run on one version that has become rare. In July of 2021, Heritage Auctions sold one for $1.1 million. When you think of the 80s and toys, you can't help but think of the Cabbage Patch Kids. Parents went insane over these and even got into fistfights in stores during the Christmas shopping season of 1983. It seemed like they couldn't make enough of these, but they were actually making $200,000 a week. At the time, the dolls retailed for $20 to $25, but some stores were selling them for as high as $50. Today, these dolls can bring good money on eBay. If they are in mint condition, they can bring more than $2,000 each. The Star Wars droid FX-7 appeared in the movie Empire Strikes Back for a whole 16 seconds. More than enough screen time for this medical droid to have an action figure of its own. A mint condition one, new in the package, sold in 2014 for $12,900. A lot of the older figures can also fetch some good money if they are in the right condition. However, there are some rare figures that were never supposed to be released and yet somehow were in Brazil. If you happen to have any of these, it's difficult to place a value on them, but they are worth a ton of money. Boglands were a creepy cute rubber puppet that was sold in cardboard boxes that resembled cages. Kids who enjoyed horror also loved these little figures. In 2019, a mint condition Halloween Blobkin sold for $1,000 on eBay. Cabbage Patch Kids weren't the only popular girls' toy in the 1980s. Care Bears started out as a character in greeting cards from the American Greetings Company before they became a lovable plush bear. In 1985, they even had their own cartoon show. The Noble Heart Horse Care Bear is one that is really sought after among toy collectors, and it can easily sell for $200 to $300. If you have any original Care Bears in excellent shape, they can easily sell for as much as $500. My Pet Monster was released by the American Greetings in 1986. This was the same company that introduced us to Care Bears. This lovable monster was marketed towards young boys who didn't want to admit that they loved stuffed animals. They were sold somewhere around $20, and today they can sell for around $100. If it's new in the box, then it can sell for more than $500. Many kids in the 80s collected baseball cards, and there are quite a few that are worth a lot of money today. If you have the Topps number 482 Rickey Henderson from 1980 and it is in okay condition, then it can bring a couple $100. But if it is in really good condition, then it can go for $1,200 to $1,500. There are even some listed on eBay for $30,000 or more. Barbie is no doubt a popular toy, and throughout the years there have been a lot of different ones sold. If you happen to have the Happy Holidays Barbie from 1988 and it is new in the package, then it can bring a couple $100s. As with any of these toys, the condition is key. So for this one, you really want to have one that doesn't have any yellowing on the package or any damage. HeMan and the Masters of the Universe came out in 1982. Since then, there have been cartoons, comic books, magazines, and even a live-action movie. But the toys are what were really popular. The figures can bring pretty good money, especially if they are new in the package. One of the more iconic things from the series is Castle Grayskull. It originally sold for $29.99, but if you have one unopened, it can easily fetch $1,500 to $4,000 on eBay. Transformers were one of the defining toys of the 1980s. They even had their own animated series to help sell the toys. The toys made $100 million in 1984 and $333 million in 1985. It's not uncommon to see some of the main characters like Optimus Prime or Megatron being sold for $300 each. If they are in mint condition, then the price can rise to around $2,000. Starscream was sold at an auction for $5,891. Soundwave was sold for $3,000 on eBay. If you can bundle these together, then you can bring in tens of thousands of dollars. In 1983, Hallmark released Rainbow Brite. They even had a 13-episode cartoon that helped market them, as well as a movie which made $4.89 million at the box office. These figures could use the power of a rainbow to make you happy. They originally sold for $15 each and can easily go for $350 to $450 on eBay if they are in the right condition. Zany Zappers are one of the strange toys from the 80s. They are essentially sunglasses with red LED lights in them. They originally sold for $5, but you can see them selling for $50 and occasionally $100 to $150. Mat balls were one of the many gross toys that became popular in the 80s. They were about the size of a baseball, and they even had a cartoon about them at one time. Originally, they sold for $3.50 each, but if you have one now new in the box, it can bring $100 or more. G.I. Joe may have started out in 1964, but it was really the 1980s when they boomed. A cartoon was launched in 1982, and smaller figures were being sold that included backstory cards. In 2019, 6 unopened G.I. Joe Night Force figures from 1988 and 1989 sold for $5,000. That's $830 per figure. In 2018, the Missile Command Headquarters playset in the box sold for $4,569. The Defiant Space Shuttle playset sold for $2,850 in 2019, and it was originally sold for $129 in 1987. The ATeam was a television show that was loved by many in the 1980s. The van as well as Mr. T became iconic and very much a big part of the decade. There were action figures being made by Galoob, and they sold for around $5 each. Today, these figures can sell anywhere between $50 and $150. If you have the right one and it's in mint condition, then it can sell well above those prices. Dungeons & Dragons toys have become somewhat popular to collect. The game began in 1974, but the toys appeared in 1983, and the action figures sold somewhere around $3.99. If you have any of these, they can sell today for somewhere between $30 and $400. The prototypes for these toys can bring a few $1,000s each. Knight Rider was another popular television show in the 1980s, and it starred David Hasselhoff. Kit was a talking car, and it has become super iconic. A lot of the kids were carrying around lunch pails in the 1980s that retailed for $9.99. These same lunch pails in great condition are worth anywhere between $150 and $200. She-Ra is from the Masters of the Universe franchise, and she also had her own television show. Back then, there were very few female superheroes. Since that time, she has become pretty collectible, and the most sought-after item is the Princess of Power Crystal Castle. It originally sold for $32.99, but it can easily sell for around $200 today. If you have one in mint condition, then it can easily fetch close to $600. Muscle figures were sold in a 10-figure can for about $3. There were tons of them to collect. Muscle was actually an acronym which stood for millions of unusual small creatures lurking everywhere. They became extremely popular in the mid-80s. Loose figures can be purchased today for a few bucks, but if you have certain ones or lots of them bundled together, then they can bring a few $100s. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was first a comic that was released in 1984. Issue number 1 in excellent shape can go for thousands of dollars. If you look on eBay today, you will see a few outrageous listings for $150,000 and $249,000. Of course, there are quite a few people watching it to see if they actually sell for that price. Ninja Turtles became so popular that even other issues of the comic book series are worth thousands. Eventually, an animated series was released in 1987. The show became an instant hit, and so were the toys that came out in 1988. The toys remained popular well into the 1990s. The action figures in the 80s sold for $3.99, and today they can fetch more than $300 each. These are just a few toys that we have spotlighted from the 1980s. There are many other toys from the decade that are also worth money. Anyone who wishes to recapture a piece of childhood memories will pay good money for the one that they used to have. So if you still have any of these toys from the 80s and you're willing to part with them, get to digging. Someone somewhere is looking for the one that you have, and it could make you a lot of money. Thank you so much for watching.